Unhidden Voices family, and welcome to episode 13, lucky number 13. So I'm here with a special guest. This is my mom, Brenda.
Hi there.
We are introducing this episode. This is the beginning of a series of episodes that is dedicated to the Crowdies, which is my cousin Wanda Crowdy. I interviewed her for episode 13, so we're going to have a conversation. But I wanted to give Mom an opportunity to talk a little bit about Wanda and then also Aunt Dolores, because Aunt Dolores' birthday is September 15th. So, Mom, can you tell us, and you have to speak up a bit,
Okay.
tell us a memory that you have of Wanda.
You know, when you said that, I thought about the first time I was staying in East Orange with the Crowdies, and I was going home to Atlantic City, and Wanda wanted to go. She was 3 years old, and I was like, and I had never babysat her by myself. And so she was like, gun ho, let's go. We got on the bus. The bus driver had hardly closed the door that Wanda started screaming. She wanted her mom. She was all over the floor. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. But the good part about the story is the minute we got to Atlantic City and Wanda took a look at Mom, she was so relieved. I guess she thought her parents were giving her to me. And she knew I wasn't prepared.
So, just to clarify, because they were confused because Aunt Carmen, people were asking me if Mateen was Aunt Carmen's son, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your sisters and the difference between Aunt Dolores and Aunt Carmen and their children?
Okay. Dolores is our older sister, and she has 3 children. Wanda, the first, then she had twins, Mateen and Dina, and then they have children. So I won't go into that right now. But Carmen is the youngest of us, and Carmen has 2 children, Shelley and Douglas.
Yes, and they have their kids too.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the Crowdies, why do we say the Crowdies?
Carmen popularized it because my sister's husband was Roger Crowdy, and Carmen started calling her just Crowdy because she loved that name.
Yeah. So Aunt Carmen called Aunt Dolores Crowdy, and so then now sometimes when we refer to them, we call them the Crowdies. Because their all last name is Crowdy. It is a cool last name.
But Carmen was very good at popularizing terms. Like, she could take a term and run with it.
She could run with it. And also...
And then everybody would pick it up.
Yeah, like Jablip. Like, she would always say that. She would always like, and... You're going to Jablip. I don't even know what Jablip means now that I think about it. All right, the last thing I wanted to say was we want to wish Aunt Dolores a happy birthday. So happy birthday in heaven, Aunt Dolores. I know that you're celebrating with everybody up there. And we also want to send our condolences to the Elliott family, that part of our family, because we did just... Paternal, right, family, because... Aunt Judy just passed away, and but she is also, and Sean passed away last month, and so both of them. But they are in good company because they're with everybody else on, all of the family that is in heaven right now, looking down on us. So happy birthday, and let's look forward to listening and learning from Wanda. This interview, she talks about her work. Wanda right now she's the eldest of our cousins. She is an interior designer. She is a go-getter. She definitely a professor and a trailblazer. And she's has an organization called It Begins with Passion, in which she basically spotlights different black artists, and so she talks a bit about that in this interview. So looking forward to
She has a son, Randy,
and we are going to do next week is going to be our interview with Randy. So Dolores's grandson. So listen,
Wanda's son.
Wanda's son. All right, so listen, learn, and amplify with us.
All right. Okay,
Sounds
so
good.
let's start with tell us your name and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, well, my name is Wanda Renee Crowdy. I live in New Jersey, a town that I really love called Montclair. I am 59 years old. And I consider myself a creative person. I'm an interior designer with a great passion for the arts as well. And I'm a mother of one, a son that I'm crazy about, who's 30 something. So I guess I needed to give my age.
Yes.
And I have to say, I'm glad you're doing this. So I'm looking forward to getting started. It's about all I have about me.
So how long have you been working the job that you're doing, interior designing?
Well, the job I actually had where I was working as a design consultant, I actually was laid off or furloughed or, whatever they want to term it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only there for a little under 2 years. But I've been an interior designer, I like to say, since I graduated with my degree in interior design and art history, which was back in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But as a designer and as a creative person, I've been doing it for myself and other people for years before that, before I started school in 2009. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience of like being a designer and how's that as a Black person? That's like, being an artist, doing that. Is it, do you feel like there's a unique voice that you bring to that, and do you feel like your voice is amplified in the design world and the art world, or that Black designers kind of struggle with that?
Oh, good question. So first and foremost, unfortunately, yes, we do. As interior designer and myself, I still basically kind of consider myself a neophyte. I follow some other people who really have blazed a trail, other people who are just rocking the industry right now. And I follow them on Instagram, I follow them on Facebook, and they're posting, their stories, even before what we're going through immediately right now. Because we've always been going through racism. We've always been going through some type of, I don't want to say like segregation, even though sometimes it is in industry, but some type of struggle. But with it being amplified right now, a lot of my colleagues, and like I said, those who I admire, have been posting a lot of stories. And they talk about their struggle compared to their white contemporaries and getting published in magazines or getting book deals. You have counterparts that have book deal after book deal after book deal. And my colleagues have been struggling year after year after year, just trying to get like one book published. Being seen as a designer and not a Black designer. Like, we're not going to come into your home and make everything look like, Zulu Nation, unless you want that, unless you want it, right? So,
yes.
I mean, we do have a very, we know the business, we know how to cater to clients, and we do have a varied palette that we can do almost anything for you. That's like on the design end. And what I find from artists, again, a neophyte myself, but I do talk to and admire a lot of different artists from my studies and from the work I've done at the Montclair Art Museum to a show that I have now, which I'm waiting for you to come in on one Thursday evening.
Yes.
Thursday, yes, cuz.
Yes,
So,
okay. You got me. Yes, Thursday evening.
Exactly, Thursday evening.
So like, do your plug right now. Do your plug.
Yeah, but seriously, but on Thursday evenings at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, 4:00 your time, I've been talking to a number of different artists and designers. And we're not only talking about what's going on right now, we just talk about them as an artist and what their passion is. And that's what the show is called. It Begins with Passion. And one of the things we've been talking about throughout the series is that artists are at the forefront. Not to say they're doing anything above and beyond any other African American or Black person experiencing racism, but they're a great conduit for the documentation of it all, like the art that they create, that goes with the narrative that's happening, something that is becoming immortal, to what's going on, and we'll have it for days, centuries from now. So they too have run into their racism, where they don't get to do the exhibitions that, again, their white counterparts do. And if you really study the history of it, not every piece of artwork actually speaks to the Black experience. There are artwork by African American artists that speak to just their experience as people. So that could be the American experience, it could be a European experience, it could be a family experience, it could be anything and everything across the board. So it's not necessarily a Black thing just because it's coming from a Black person, but yet they don't get those opportunities to express themselves and show their work and be on the same level, as the others.
What about you? Do you feel like you get that opportunity, like when you put your stuff out there?
No, no, I don't. I unfortunately fight it myself. That's why I don't mind being there, helping other people to fight it. And if not, in addition to fighting it, is recognizing it. Is recognizing that there is racism, is recognizing that there is injustice, is recognizing that there's not a balance and there's not a fairness. Just be fair. Just be fair. I'm not saying that you have to let an African-American artist or designer in if they're not qualified. I'm not saying you got to let an African-American artist, designer in if you don't like their work. But give them a chance. See it. You may just like it. You may just understand it. It may be something that you can relate to. And I just don't want, the color of the skin being held back. And unfortunately, I have not received jobs. I have overheard people say in the showroom where I worked when I've approached someone to work with them and it didn't click, which sometimes you just don't click with someone. But are we not clicking because of who I am as a person, or are we not clicking because you don't like the color of my skin? And I've seen it happen time and time again in the showroom where I was working. And one time I literally, again, as I was saying, approached somebody, didn't work out. You could tell they didn't want to work with me. And then I saw them working with a colleague who was a white woman. And I heard them say, I said, well, I wanted to work with you because I know you would get it. We got to work together. Us. Granted, you could take it in different directions, but I know what he was talking about. I know what he meant. Yeah.
So you said you went back to school to get your interior design degree. Can you talk about your experience in school? And did you feel like you were discriminated against while you were in school at any point?
No, not really in school. I have to say school was kind of like a safe space. I love being in school. I got 5 degrees. I really like being in school. Because it is kind of like, granted, people do experience racism, academia, most definitely. I experienced it more so teaching than I did as a student.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, but I can talk more about not being treated on the same level as an instructor, seeing courses that I was teaching, and then all of a sudden it was taken away from me and given to someone else, and couldn't get an exact reason why or explanation why. And not to say one I didn't agree with, I just did not get an explanation. But if I look just visually, the only thing I could see is that, oh, you gave it to her because the color of her skin, or you didn't give it to me because of the color of my skin, because I'm not understanding how I'm able to teach this course all these semesters, then all of a sudden I'm not able to teach it. You still need the course, the institution does, but now this person's teaching it. So I'm not understanding. But if I can go back to the interior design incident, I can give you a blatant racist experience. So I was working with the showroom, and there was a white woman who also was working in the same level that I was. Granted, she was working for the company a little bit longer, but she started as part-time and went full-time after I was now a full-time employee. Already noted that I had more education than her. And then shortly afterwards, it was proven that I actually generated more sales than her. So I had more education, I was generating more sales. And also I would like to think I had a better portfolio of, of work. But yet when it was time to hire an actual interior designer for the showroom where I was working, which I expressed an interest in becoming the interior designer, if not that showroom one in the region, they gave it to her. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute now. Let me see if I understand this. I have more experience. I generate more income for the company, and I have a better, higher degree than she does. But yet, she's the one who received the promotion. Okay, call it what you want.
Yeah.
That sound like,
yeah, that's, oh. Yeah, and then you said, so you continued to work there, and then they had furloughs because of COVID?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So that was actually the next set of questions was about COVID. Can you describe the ways which you feel like COVID-19 has impacted your life?
Well, definitely negatively, but I have to say there's a couple of positive things in there too. Negatively because, I lost family members. As you know, I lost my dad's brother, my uncle, and then his oldest daughter passed away from it. And then there have been a friend of mine, she was sick and her husband passed away. So there is the reality of the death. And the death is not only happening across the board for, 100 and some odd, 1,000 people, but I could see where it's really affecting, the African-American, community. It's definitely been something to have to be patient with, because there's so much information out there and exactly don't know what information is absolutely accurate, what information can I hold on to that's not going to turn around and change in a day or two. So it's like, but you said this Tuesday and now Thursday it's something else. And so it's like,
so then when folks pass away now, it's different also because of the distance and like you're not able to, were you able to do like memorials or different services for folks?
No, and I think that was hard in the beginning. We weren't able to get together for my uncle physically. We were hoping to, now that, the weather's warmer and this, whole COVID is supposed to subside some, but we did do a Zoom. So, and actually it was kind of cool because a lot of us on the cousins on that side hadn't seen one another in years, if ever. So it was actually like, oh my God, like this brought us all together. So kind of think, Uncle Squirrel was smiling, smiling down.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really good. So I think you actually answered the second question was how do you think that COVID has impacted your family? But do you have any other examples of how it's impacted your family, do you think, or yourself?
Well, I do think, like, again, there's opportunities for us to come together. Like, I think we are a close family, to begin with, thank God for, our moms, as sisters, and they kind of made that pact, which you showed in that video, of keeping us close and keeping us connected. So I think with the COVID thing and just taking strides to do the Zooms and stay in touch and call, it's helped. The distancing, well, you can't have much more distance than 3,000 miles between us.
That's true.
I think we met the 6 feet,
I think we met it.
Right. We met that. But like when you had the thing for your mom for her birthday you know,
Mhm.
and then like my sister and brother and I, we have Zoomed a couple of times, several times, like since this all started. And you kind of
Yeah.
think, well, we could have been doing this before COVID. But I think that's
Yeah.
where some of the positive things come out of this. Like
Yeah.
you get to be more creative. You get to think out of the box, and maybe even things that you could have done before, but like, oh, now have that desire and passion, you know, to
Yes.
really, you know, do something. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about discrimination. And you talked about some of the personal experiences of racism. But how do you think racism impacts your family?
Oh, well, everyone, you know, differently, and it depends on, you know, one, where you live. Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for the years I lived in California, I really feel not that there isn't racism, but I think it's experienced and understood differently than here on the East Coast, most
Yeah.
definitely. I think, of course, you know, the industry, depending on which, you know, industry, and like, if we have people who are in the service industry, academia, those that work, you know, consulting, can work from home, and those who are in the service industry and can't.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh, and then also age, because your
Yeah.
mom is, and Aunt Aunt Barbara are going to have a different
Mm-hmm.
take on it than like you and I would compared
Yeah.
to our kids.
Yeah.
So I think all that, you know, comes into consideration as well. So I think, but as a family that we're African Americans, we all know that we are living in a society where we're definitely not treated the same. We're definitely not treated fairly. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to take us into consideration, particularly when we're talking to our kids.
Yeah.
And the younger they are, the more we have to really take the patience and time to explain to them what's going on without
Mm-hmm.
it also being defeating.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's bad, but
Mm-hmm.
your mom, my mom, they know it when it was worse. Their parents
Yeah.
knew it when it was worse. Their parents knew it was worse. So yeah, everything's been going on for the last 400 years, but also there has been some progress. And I want the young people to know that keep it up.
Yeah.
It may be slow. Like my mom would say, you know, it's not a revolution, it's an evolution. And
That's a great line. I
yeah,
need
my
to
mom
maybe
would
write
say
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Go
Yeah.
on, Dolores.
Right. She has some good ones.
Yes, she did.
Yeah. So I think
Um,
we just have to keep it up and keep talking to our kids and let them understand that, yeah, it's not fair, but one day it may be if you keep working at it. Be smart, you know what you can and cannot do with the cops, you know what you can and cannot do with, you know, people who, you know, are white,
mhm.
but keep doing something.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things like I've in my conversations that I've had with like, you know, the children, or let's say the children, the younger generation, I've just been really, really unpleasantly surprised to learn that almost a person, every single one of them has already had a negative interaction with the police, which you know, I guess I didn't like. I mean, it's just not something that I want to have happen, and I wish that we could, you know, there was a way to protect. But I do feel like there's these conversations, and you know, listening to them, and then also kind of trying to encourage. I think that that's important, and I think that's one of the benefits of, you know, our family, because we do have those conversations. But what other ways do you find help you to kind of deal with racism? Like, how do you heal from it?
I vent to friends. Yeah, we have our own little, you know, protests, you know, on the phone, or, you know, over drinks or something like that. So you have to let it out, and, you know,
Yeah.
don't let it fester. Don't hold it. I don't believe in holding like anything in. I mean, there's healthy ways of venting, but
Mm-hmm.
I believe in holding things in that fester cause other, you know, physical ailments.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do participate, you know, where and how I can.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say I, you know, did something rather than nothing. You know,
Yeah.
I may not have the, you know, the political, you know, prowess to really, you know, be at the forefront of, you know, certain issues, only because that's just not my passion. So I'm going to go where my passion will take me and do what I can in that area. And again, that goes back to, you know, design and working with,
Yeah.
you know, artists and giving them a chance to, you know, show, you know, who they are and do what they do. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess the direct answer is the way I handle it, other than venting, is to do something rather than nothing.
Yeah, and through your creativity with the amplifying the voices of artists, and also through your own artistic work. That's really beautiful. Okay, so
And like I say, continue conversations, particularly with
mhm,
like my son and, you know,
mhm.
in the, you know, young people in our lives.
So then this is a nice transition, because I was going to ask you specifically about police brutality and about having that conversation. So can you talk about, like, when do you remember having this conversation or the talk about, like, how to protect yourself from the police with Randy? And also, do you remember, like, your parents ever talking to you about it? And if so, can you share, like, what that was like, and, like, what you had to say to and what you heard from your parents?
Well, to be very honest with you, I didn't hear a lot from my mom and dad about racism and the protests. I remember being really small and marching with my parents when Martin Luther King Jr. Was assassinated. I do remember, and this wasn't really regarding the police, but I'll segue this in there. I remember going into a drugstore in my neighborhood when I was, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. And it was one we went into frequently. It was before the CVS's and all that. So this is where, you know, we picked up our prescriptions. And it was run, you know, mom and pop, ran by a white family. And I remember going in there. My dad drove me. He waited in the car. I went in there to look for something. They didn't have it. So I left. Well, I got ready to leave. And the guy called me back, the owner. And I had a bag in my hand because I had just gone to the candy store. And he motioned, you know, for my bag, and I was like nervous. I was like say only 12 or 13, and I gave it to him, and he went through it and he gave it back to me, and I just kind of like walked down and left. And I told my dad when I got in the car, and he's like didn't say much. He just said, "Wait right here. Don't leave the car. I'll be right back." And I just remember, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what he said, but I know when he got back in the car, he was still very quiet. But I felt so proud. I felt so protected at that
Yeah,
moment. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what happened, but I felt really good, really protected. But jumping ahead to the police, I fortunately had not had a negative interaction with the police. But I know I still need to have that conversation with Randy. I don't know exactly when I had it. I want to believe he was young. I think we were still living there in California. So he was maybe like in junior high. And, you know, having to say what, you know, he could, you know, and could not do, you know, think having, don't be a smart ass. I want you to be smart, but you can't be a smart ass. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When he got older and he started driving, whole different scenario. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're driving now. So, you know, stop, hands on the wheel, no sudden movements. You know, I had to have that conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I stop and really get into what's going on, that pisses me off that I have to have a conversation like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know? So,
yeah,
yeah, I know.
yeah.
Hmm?
No, I was gonna say that's traumatizing. You know, to actually have to deal with that, or have that, like, fear of, like, this could happen, so I have to prepare my child for something like
Right.
that. Mm-hmm.
And if I may add, he's going out with, he has a girlfriend that, you know, isn't Black. And we had to have the conversation with her that don't expect him to do, you know, as a protector in a physical manner that a white person can do. He just can't, because unfortunately of the color of his skin. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he will protect you, you know, through his love and through his dedication, but it's not going to look like it would if he were a white person.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, totally believe in just pure love. Love somebody, it doesn't matter the color of their skin. But once that love that's innate, we got to
Yeah.
come up to the surface. There's a different conversation you have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with society, right? And there's
Right.
different situations that's going on. All right. So
Exactly.
do you remember the first time that you saw a Black person being mistreated by the police?
Well, not so much mistreated, but I have, noticed, that, you kind of go by when you're driving and you see the cops that pull somebody over and you go, it's a Black person. It just seems like, again, disproportionately, every time I drive by and a cop has pulled somebody over, there seems to be a Black person sitting in that car. And it doesn't matter what the car looks like. It could be a hoopty to a Benz. It just seems like it's just always seems to be, a Black person that's been, pulled over. I haven't actually witnessed it. There's a video that I saw on Facebook and I tried to copy it and forward it, but for some reason it kept failing. But it was a woman, not exactly sure what her nationality was, either Black or a Latina. And she was videotaping this young man. It looked like it was in LA, who all these cop cars were around this one Black man with their guns on him. And she was videotaping and she was asking him, why do you guys have your guns on him? He's not armed. He's not armed. Why do you guys have your guns on him? And, he had his hands up behind his head. He was on his knees. And it's literally like about 1, 2, 4 cop cars. You're talking about 2 cops per car. It's like 8, police officers on this one man. And it was so thankful that she was videotaping this and she was asking them why. And of course, they weren't answering her. And she asked him, what is your name? What is your name? And he said what his name was. And then she not remembered, but it brought up that her boyfriend was killed by cops. She said back in September. So now she's getting like really emotional. And it was just, thank God for camera phones. Thank God for, camera phones. And she recorded that and, thank God for her because she was probably very pivotal in saving this young man's life.
Yeah.
It could have turned out like very differently. So personally, I haven't experienced anything like that. No.
Yeah. So since you talked about camera phones, when did you first find out about George Floyd's murder? And like, what was your reaction to that?
I have found out, around the same time everyone else did, like practically immediately after his murder, because the video, went viral. And then it just ended up being so many news feed. I personally did not watch it. I knew the outcome. I don't need to see that. Is one thing being, part of some, HBO movie or something like that. But this was a live, living human. And I did see like the first part of the video where he was handcuffed and they put him like against the wall at first. And then I saw like a clip when that Derek guy's knee was like on his neck. But I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't watch the life leave his body, which is devastating to even think about, let alone watch. And then it's being viewed on so many different outlets, which is another thing that's good and bad about camera phones, because now there's so many different outlets that these, videotapes have a ability to be aired. So I don't, other than, knowing about it at the same time, practically everyone else did, but just, being devastated. And I was still feeling for the Breonna Taylor, because a lot of people weren't talking about her at first, like what happened to her. And that was devastating. That didn't make any sense. And there's still a lot of justice that needs to be had in her case.
That's right.
And then there was the Aubrey, thing before that. So when it was just back to back to back, and we can go further, as we all know. And so many people, Rodney King and beyond, being beat up and murdered. But the George Floyd, I will say, watching some of the footage of his services, and his daughter was, I think, on top of maybe her uncle's shoulders or something like that, and with the protests and everything, and she was like, my daddy changed the world, my daddy changed the world. and I, for some reason, it looked like she really got it, and she was really like proud. And he and every other person that has lost their lives have all mounted up to this point here and going forward. Now, prayerfully going forward will be less and less people losing their lives to make a difference. But it's all has made a difference. For something's got to change. I know we keep saying that, but we have to keep saying it, because even if we change it to something will change or something is changing to be more affirmative, it will. Again, it's going to take time, but it will.
So, okay, I'm going to switch gears, and we're going to, and I think that the conversation that what you just said about George Floyd's daughter, talking about her, getting it and thinking about like how her dad changed the world, kind of is a nice transition, because I want to talk about family and family relationships. And so, can you share a family memory that means a lot to you, and why does this memory stand out for you?
A family memory, just like in general, feel good or anything?
Yeah, anything that kind of, means a lot to you and stands out.
Oh my God, that's so many.
I know.
How long is
That's what everybody says.
like, how long is this show? Like, oh my gosh. Wow, Amina. Okay. I would say oh gosh. Okay, so most recently, I love the fact that I'm marching for Black Lives Matter with, not only with Randy and Angelina and, her 11-year-old son. And seeing like, so that's a like small family moment. And going into seeing Mateen, doing the same thing with his kids. All of us being together. One of the first things that jumps to mind is Shelley's wedding. That brought so many of us together, and we looked good, and the food was good.
That candy bar,
the candy and the desserts, like, oh
my God. All the dessert, the whole room was just like dessert heaven. That was so amazing.
That was great. That was good, and that was
and the
fun.
Music was good too. The DJ was good.
The music was good, yeah. So that was great. Another thing that comes to mind was our trip to the Grand Canyon. I missed those trips. We did Yosemite and we did the Grand Canyon. Yosemite too. That was.
I made a photo album for Tarek for Eid this year, and I put in. I was trying to do the dates, because you know how you don't necessarily always write. Well, I don't necessarily always write the names. I mean, the dates and the names on the back of a photo.
Right.
But I was doing that. I did this project where I went through, and that we went to Yosemite 20 years ago. It's been 20 years. Yes.
Oh my God.
I wasn't even born the last time we all
Neither
went.
was Syed. Yeah.
He was there because he's a little bit older. So he was still in like on like
no, that's right.
Yeah.
But that was the second time we went, because remember we went twice.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay.
We went twice. Yeah. Yes. So right, Syed was born the second time we went, because I remember Mateen was walking around, and Syed was a big baby. And Mateen was walking around with that thing on his back. And I was like, oh, let me help. You've been carrying him for so long. And he strapped that thing on me and put that big baby in that thing. I think I walked like 10 steps. Like, okay, I'm good. That thing was so heavy. And I think Tarek took it after me. And even he was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I remember I used to call him Bam Bam. He was a big baby. He came out like 10 pounds.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
he was
that's
big. But yeah, those are good trips. Those the
yeah,
Yosemites and then the Grand Canyons and the
yeah,
Grand Canyon once because we went there once, right? Yeah,
yeah. Just
as a
once, yeah,
family.
yeah. All
Um,
right, so
yeah, okay,
what?
yeah,
So
because I just
how
was
would
going.
you? Well, how would you describe your family to other people?
Oh my gosh, very fortunate to be a part of.
Mhm.
Like we kind of hit gold,
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah, we go through, our ups and downs and ins and out, and what was she thinking? Moments and things like that. But for the most part, we're very loving. We're very supportive. We
Mhm.
very much so, like, as Randy would say, come out of the cut when you really need somebody.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So very, very not only proud to be a part of this family, but just blessed and happy. Like
Mhm.
we lucked up. We lucked up.
Yeah.
And I think from the beginning, from our ancestors to those who are still with us, now, like your mom and Aunt Barbara and Uncle Bobby, to all our kids, and now you and Shelly with grandkids that
Mhm.
coming up behind us. We have a rich lineage, and I think we have a very strong future.
Yeah. Okay, so then speaking of sort of our lineage and our family and the roles and the responsibilities, what role do you think you play in the family? And then how do you play that role? Can you provide specific examples?
Oh, that's a question I'd probably have to ask other people. I
Mhm.
don't know. I remember I can give you an example. We were living in California, and
Mhm.
we had some friends over, and this is my moment of celebrating Kwanzaa. So I think it was one of those days of Kwanzaa. You can see how much I was into it. I can't remember which. But your mom was there. My mom was visiting, and somebody was doing the whole ceremony thing and talking about, pouring the libations. But before we could do anything, we had to get permission from the eldest, in the room. And I remember the person looking towards where my mom and your mom was. And so your mom turned around and looked at my mom. And then my mom turned around and looked like they were not the oldest in the room. And so I think I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So soon when we be doing the celebration and like, oh yeah, we need to speak to the elder, and someone's gonna look at me and I'm gonna be like, what? What? When did
Because
this happen?
your mom actually told me, she was like, you need to plan that trip to the Grand Canyon before I'm too old to enjoy it. That's what she told me. So that's why I planned it. She was like, I don't want to be the oldest person in the room. So I said, okay, Auntie.
And then she
I
didn't
said,
go.
okay. 12 years ago, because she didn't go because Kiara, because Dina got pregnant with Kiara. So she was
Yeah,
like, I need to
yeah.
support. So I said, I did this. But we had fun, so it was good. It was all good. It was all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay. Who taught you to value family, and how did they teach you that?
Oh, the sisters, my mom, your mom, Aunt Carmen, most definitely, definitely. Like just my mom and Aunt Carmen would always have the kids together like every summer.
Mm-hmm.
We spent like holidays together. Your mom gave you my first ticket to fly out to California. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
remember that. I graduated
I
high school.
do. I
Yeah, you guys are so
do.
little.
I was like,
I
oh, like big cousin Wanda. She just graduated from high school. I
yeah,
was like, oh, so proud. Yeah,
I
that was
remember.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So
Um,
yeah, the sisters. Hmm.
and okay, who in the family has been your biggest teacher? And share something that they taught you that you will never forget.
Oh my God. Well, that depends on what I was taught. And I think there was like one biggest teacher, but again, I'll go to the sisters. My mom, believe it or not, just knowing my relationship with my mom actually taught me the value in being a strong mother, being there, for your kids. Aunt Carmen taught me how to be nice and how to really look at people at their soul and at their heart than anything else. And your mom just taught me how to be free, how to be myself. Like, yeah. So those are the biggest lessons I got for each of them.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. That's so beautiful. That. Dang, okay. Like, oh wow. Oh, that's the best answer, Wanda. You get the win. You win the prize for the best answer so far. Okay, so this is the last question.
Okay.
What do you want everyone to know about what it means to be a part of a Black family in America?
To be part of a Black family in America is to know you have support. At least we do. Is to know that you could be strong and vulnerable at the same time. Is to know that you got to forgive. Forgiveness is probably up there at the top. And not even just family members, but telling forgiveness of situations. Like, okay, that was then, that was now, let it go. And forgiveness of yourself, in like myself, I would say, in any given situation or relationship. And to being part of a Black family is the love that you have with an undying relationship. I know I saw, and you probably heard and seen this before when it comes to friends, and I have some great friends. I have some really good sister friends. And they say, oh, you don't get to choose your family because they're related to you. You choose your family or friends or something like that. It's like your friends are your family because you get to choose them, and your family are related because you don't get to choose them. And I would say for us, it's both. Yeah. Like we've been blessed to been placed in a family, and if it's ours, and hopefully it's the same for other Black families, extended, that you're with someone that's related to you and is also a friend. Yeah. There's this. I think that saying goes something like God made us family, and we made us friends, like, or something like that. Like we did the. Well, actually, God made us friends too. but we did the daily work of, because it's, to maintain a friendship and to be supportive and to be in each other's lives. And I think that what you said about our parents, our moms, doing that, making that commitment and teaching us that is something that we hold dear to. So thank you so much. This was really wonderful. Oh, thank you. Really enjoyed talking to you. So do one more plug. So tell us, how do we find It Begins with Passion? Oh, thank you. So It Begins with Passion. I do the show live on Instagram Thursday evenings at 7 p.m., 4 o'clock on the West Coast. And I talk to a different artist or designer every week and talk about, what their passions are. And this week I'm actually having my first and right now only culinary artist. So she's a chef, and she has a cookbook coming out. So she's gonna be on the show. So you have to, just go to Instagram, go to It Begins with Passion, and at 7 o'clock on Thursday you'll see us live, and you can just join in. Oh, I will do. All right, thank you, Wanda. Thank you, Mina. I love you. Love you. And I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Absolutely. I know you will. All right. Bye. Bye-bye.